we've seen over the last 15 years real intervention by the central banks and government treasuries to drive and manage the price down as really a way to protect the bond market and sort of the inflated values of global currencies, particularly the dollar. More and more investors are beginning to understand that game. One of the things that had always threatened the market was the overhang of gold that the IMF has said that it was willing to sell. The IMF is beginning, instead of just threatening sales, they have approved sales, but that overhang is going very quickly into central banks, which are snapping it up. And if you say to yourself, look, if central banks and institutional investors and retail investors are going to start to move into this very, very thin market, it doesn't take much incremental change in percentage of market share to drive the price through the roof. So the long-term fundamentals on precious metals are very, very strong, number one. And number two, it is very important to remember that this is an extremely political market and a very, there's an economic war going on in the middle of this market. So we're looking at prices that are extremely volatile. And it's very important to recognize, yes, we have a long-term bull market. My guess is that there is a great distance to go. This has only just begun. But you have to be very careful because in the short term we're going to get wild swings. And it's important for a retail investor to not do anything in this market where they could get caught by by those swings. So before anybody sort of tiptoes into these waters, just make sure you understand what you've got going and be prepared to stick in it for the long haul. Now, when does it end? One of the things that could end all of this is when a new global currency it goes into effect and is really working, and that will diminish the need for using precious metals as sort of a global currency. This reflects not only that need, but the distrust that everybody has in government. So we're really watching a deterioration in the quality of sovereign government credits worldwide. So I think this goes on for a long time. You just want to be really careful because we're talking about something that will price in very volatile ways against your local currency.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Betty in Texas. Betty, what's on your mind?
Catherine, thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you. I'm so thrilled with everything that you say. However, I would like to add in something about the Copenhagen Treaty. One, Obama still hasn't produced his birth certificate, and he's being sued over that by Phil Berg, I believe. And two, he cannot sit as the head of the Security Council of the United Nations while he's being president of the United States. And so have you heard anything about whether or not Phil Berg has filed an injunction to keep Obama from going and signing the Copenhagen Treaty? And what do you think about it?
I don't know. I'm just ignorant of the status of that lawsuit. Occasionally, like anybody, I'll read things on the Internet, but I really am not current.
And I don't think that there's anything actually going on in regards to the Copenhagen Treaty due to that. I thank you for the call, Betty. Let's go to Chris in New Mexico. Chris, you're on the line.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Jason.
No, that was Jason. I'm Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
That's okay.
I heard Jason.
Chris, what do you got for us?
Catherine, nice to hear you in the daytime instead of the middle of the night. Would you spend a few minutes talking about one of the alternative currencies? I think that's the only way that we're going to get out of this mess. Something like along the lines of Ithaca Hours or, some of the others that have been established. And I know you know a little bit about that, so maybe can you address that?
Sure. I think there are a number of ways that we can start to transact both locally and in our networks. And the important thing to understand is it needs to be built in a very granular way, which gives energy to the people in the short term within a community. One of the challenges of community currencies is that if you organize them as a sort of new legal structure and make them complicated, they can be very expensive and time-consuming. And I'm a believer in the just do it method. And I would look at several things. One is the idea of using your gold and silver coins as just a medium of exchange. If you go to our website at Solari.com, Franklin Sanders of the Money Changer and I have created a little application which we're about to redevelop and roll out a new one in 2010 called the Gold and Silver Payment Calculator, and it allows you to translate back and forth between dollars. Let's say you want to pay somebody $100. You can use the calculator to very quickly calculate in silver and gold coins what it would take to pay that amount. So the first thing, I'm going to suggest three things, but the first is just start using your gold and silver coins to transact. Just do it.
Let's talk about those other two things on the other side. It's the Alex Jones Show. I'm Jason Burmis, sitting in. Infowars.com, prisonplan.tv, and Catherine's website, Solari.com, Solari.com. Final segment of the Alex Jones Show. He's out on assignment in Dallas. I'm Jason Burmis, sitting in. If you missed any of the program, remember following the broadcast. The podcast is available at Infowars.com. Three great guests today: Jim O'Neill, Gary Lackman, Catherine Austin Fitz, and of course Alex Jones joined us for the better part of an hour. Catherine, you were just talking about what currencies you could get into. You said, use your silver and gold coins as currencies, but you had two other points you wanted to make.
Sure, and this is how do we start currencies by the just do it method. The second is there's a wonderful association called IRDA. It's the International Association Related to Barter Networks. In your community, it is likely that you already have a barter network set up that could use some support, and there is a great deal that can be done through barter networks, both locally and their network globally. So you can end up getting your tour package to Scotland for the holidays through your local barter network. So check out the IRDA website and find the local barter network or networks in your place, and start to see if there aren't ways you can use it. A lot of times you'll find businesses report as much as a 10% increase in sales that come about by their use of barter. So there's a lot of opportunities, but we need to just build from the infrastructure that's there. Finally, there's a real opportunity, as Chris said, to explore exchanging or trading or using hours, just using hours among neighbors and friends and businesses, but then going to a more formal system of trading our time and trading hours that makes an awful lot of sense to explore. It starts with really talking to other people in your community, whether it's your neighbor or other small businesses, about how you can help each other save time or lower your expenses. So it really starts with socializing and communication and just exploring the ideas. If you can start to have more reciprocal relationships and connections, then you can move to a system of really trading hours, and there's lots of information on the website. Now, I will say one of the most interesting statistics, Jason, is during the Great Depression, there were over 3,200 local currencies in America.
Do you think there'll be a revival in that?
Only 3,100 counties. So this is something that we're going to return and be doing this again. And so it absolutely makes sense to spend time, but start with what you know, whether it's your gold and silver coins, barter networks in your community, just getting to know more people in your neighborhood and seeing where you can't trade time. Just where I live in a very rural community, so we're always offering to help each other. I'm going into town. What can I pick up for you?
All right, final caller, Noel in Illinois. You're on the air.
Yes, hi, Jason. Fable Enemies was unbelievable. And I have a quick question in terms of the ClimateGate scandal. Have any of you guys talked about, there's a newsletter from Earth Government, March 27, 2003, which talks about how we needed a Earth government in terms of like a one world government to help,
I have seen that document, Noel. I have seen that document. I have not discussed it on the program, but that's purely oversight. The only thing about that document is it's not an actual email. It was something that was being emailed to other people as kind of like this precursor, I guess, to the global government they were going to try to get passed in the Copenhagen Treaty. Very pro-one world government, very pro-new world order. But after all, that is where this all seems to be headed as they are trying to promote a global currency. Catherine Austin Fitz's website is Solari.com. That's Solari. If you missed any of the program, we got the podcast coming to you at Infowars.com in just a few moments, and the rebroadcast right after this. It's the Alex Jones Show. I'm Jason Burmis sitting in. Thank you all.